You may hear your loved one's level of injury mentioned frequently. Level of injury refers to where the spinal cord is functioning and is also known as the neurological level of injury. Doctors determine this by assessing the movement and sensation at or below a certain level on the spinal cord. The level of injury designation is a letter followed by a number that corresponds to the spinal nerves. Refer to this subchapter for information about cervical level of injury from C5 to C8. C stands for cervical, and the numbers 5, 6, 7, or 8 refer to the spinal nerves in that section of the spinal cord. Keep in mind that these are general guidelines for levels of injury, and your own or your loved one's injury may differ due to its individual type and severity. The level of independence achieved also has much to do with the patient's health at the time of injury. This includes body type, existing medical conditions, and other injuries that may have occurred at the time of the accident.
While the cervical spinal cord nerves affected by a low cervical injury are located in the neck, they control other parts of the body. Lower cervical sections from C5 to C8 correspond to nerves controlling your arms and your hands. Cervical injuries usually result in full or partial quadriplegia. Depending on the exact area affected, persons with injuries may regain some function below the level of injury. An injury at each of these cervical levels has different effects, so we will talk about each one individually. At the C5 level, spinal nerves are connected to the shoulder or deltoid and to the biceps of the arm. At this level of injury, your loved one can raise his or her arms and bend his or her elbows, but will likely have some or total paralysis of the wrists, hands, trunk, and legs. A person injured at the C5 level will be able to speak, but may have weak breathing ability and need a ventilator. They may have low endurance and may also need help clearing saliva. At the C6 level, spinal nerves affect the ability to control wrist extension. Persons with C6 injuries typically have paralysis in the hands, trunk, and legs, but should be able to bend the wrists back, like the movement used in throttling a motorcycle. They can speak and use their diaphragm, but their breathing will be weakened. Spinal nerves at the C7 level control elbow extension and some finger extension, or the ability to straighten elbows or hold fingers out. Most patients at this level can straighten their arm at the elbow and have normal movement of their shoulder muscles. C8 nerves control some of your hand movements. Most people with a C8 level of injury should be able to grasp and release objects. Persons with C7 and C8 injuries can speak and use their diaphragms to breathe, move their shoulders, arms, wrists, and hands, but will have paralysis of some of the muscles of the hand and the essential muscles of the trunk and legs. The ability to cough and clear secretions will be limited.
At the C5 level, your loved one will be able to use a power wheelchair, but will need total assistance getting into and out of the chair. At the C6 level, your loved one can move into and out of bed and the wheelchair with some assistive equipment. And people with a C7 or C8 injury can usually get in and out of their wheelchairs without help. They may also be able to drive an adapted vehicle. Most of these functional improvements won't occur at the trauma care center, but rather weeks or months later following therapy. For those who can find sources of support, a wide range of driving equipment and vehicle modifications are available. The injured person's ability to care for themselves is limited at the C5 level. People with C5 injuries are typically unable to control bowel and bladder movements and will need assistance to manage their elimination programs. They will need help getting into and out of bed, but can probably eat with assistive equipment. Persons with a C6 injury may be able to manipulate their equipment, but otherwise will need similar help. People with C7 or C8 injuries can get into and out of their wheelchairs without help and can eat, groom, bathe, and dress independently. You'll probably hear the phrase level of independence during rehabilitation. It refers to your loved one's future ability to function independently and care for him or herself versus needing support from professional or volunteer caregivers. Patients with low cervical levels of injury will most likely need between 6 and 10 hours a day of personal care assistance with bathing, dressing, management of their bowel and bladder programs, eating, and grooming. These patients may need between 2 and 6 hours of additional assistance each day to help with tasks like grocery shopping, meal preparation, and home cleaning. Home modifications may be necessary for persons with low cervical injury. Their home should have doorways wide enough to accommodate their wheelchair and have ramps in place of stairs. Strongly consider making countertops, sinks, and stoves accessible, as well as making bathrooms as easy to navigate as possible. Ramps, door modifications, special sinks, grab bars, and easy-to-turn doorknobs make it possible for people affected by spinal cord injury to live more independently. Friends, family, church, and community groups may also pitch in to help with home modifications and fundraisers. Many people receive funding assistance or donations from special events, local businesses, groups, and even individuals. Later in the rehabilitation process, you may hear the term functional progression, which refers to how much progress your loved one may achieve as time goes by. At the lower cervical levels, it may partly depend on whether or not he or she can go to a rehabilitation facility for additional care and therapy after leaving the trauma care center. No matter what, it's important to develop and follow a consistent care routine to help your loved one's possible progress.
After spinal cord injury, your loved one will gradually improve. And one of the best ways to monitor this is that if there's any feeling or any movement below the level of the injury, this is a very positive sign. This is something that you can build upon. Gradually over time, the therapists and the rehabilitation folks will try to help drive greater recovery from that little bit of recovery that you're beginning to see. This recovery can occur for weeks and months and sometimes even years. So it's real important for you to push those gains that you see, but also it's very important to begin to accept any limitations in recovery that may come about so that your loved one can move on with life using assisted devices, using those means by which he or she can return to a normal life.
At this time, we'll continue on to the last chapter of the video. Chapter 6 provides practical advice for how to deal with the injury and its consequences to your loved one and your family. Lee Woodruff starts off the chapter. She has some great advice because she and her family have been through and survived a catastrophic injury themselves. It's an important part of the video.
In January of 2006, my husband Bob was seriously injured in a bomb blast in Iraq while covering the war for ABC News. In an instant, the shock of that news turned our family upside down. Your mind is probably crowded with thoughts about what has happened to you and your loved one, as well as from the information shared in this video so far. It's a lot to adjust to and to comprehend, I know. During this time, and later, you'll probably experience normal emotional stages that include mourning and grief. Although the grieving process is different for everyone, it's common to experience denial and disbelief, followed by sadness, anger, bargaining, and finally, acceptance. It's natural and important to grieve the way things were before the injury. You may feel overwhelmed or try to go on like nothing has changed. Everyone copes with these feelings in different ways. Don't be surprised if your relationships with family and friends are tested. With time and support, you'll begin to adjust and understand your new normal. At the Trauma Care Center, you may find initial support from a chaplain on staff or from your own religious or spiritual leaders. Private or group counseling and support groups may also help. If those aren't available, talk to supportive friends and loved ones. Ask someone you trust to allow you just to vent and express your anger and grief, rather than provide answers and solutions at first. This is a critical time to network among your personal community. Almost everyone finds that they have a friend or a relative who knows someone who's been through something similar, who can give you advice and support. This is not the time to be a hero. Ask for help from your church, neighbors, and your colleagues.
Once your loved one is stable and ready for discharge from the trauma care center, your physician and case manager will talk to you about possible options for other health care or treatment. Those could include a specialized rehabilitation center, home health care, a short or long-term stay in a nursing care facility, or day rehabilitation at a facility near your home. The case manager or financial representative here at the hospital will help you understand those options for payment depending on any health care coverage, workers' compensation, Medicare or Medicaid benefits, or private pay options you may have. As you navigate the complex requirements for your loved one's recovery, it's a good idea to appoint one family member or close friend to serve as a point person. This person can work with the case manager to negotiate the maze of insurance and government organizations that may impact your loved one's case and reimbursements. Be sure this is a person who can follow through on gathering everyone's questions, getting them answered, and not taking no as an answer when something important is at stake. They should keep a notebook for taking notes, writing down answers to questions from the patient's healthcare team, and noting important milestones or setbacks so that they can help the patient achieve the maximum recovery possible.
Even though my doctors told me it would be a long time, I was still unprepared for how long the road to recovery would be. So as you consider the options available, think about these questions. Can any family member or members assist you with caregiving? Can friends or family take turns? Is any close friend or family member retired, working part-time, or able to take time off from work and other commitments to help? Or do your options include hiring a live-in caregiver if necessary? Are there friends, neighbors, church and community group members who can form a support team or help with fundraising? Do you have someone you can count on who has good access and knowledge of basic computer skills and the internet to receive emails, join online support groups, or communities that provide a collective volunteer database and calendar?
Many states have tax-funded offices to support people with disabilities. Check with your county and state to see what resources they offer. These might include online directories for personal care support, specialized transportation services, and even advocates who ensure that workplaces follow laws to help your loved one get back to work if appropriate. Empower yourself with as much knowledge as possible by checking out local support groups or spinal cord injury organizations, as well as national organizations like the American Trauma Society, the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, and the organization I represent, the National Spinal Cord Injury Association. They offer helpful tools and checklists, and you can easily find them online. Be somewhat wary of random internet surfing of topics related to spinal cord injury. Instead, rely on well-known, reputable organizations that have already consolidated the information in a helpful way.
Recovery from the initial trauma of your loved one's spinal cord injury takes time. But many people who have spinal cord injuries go on to lead fulfilling lives. It's essential to stay motivated and get the support you need. It's important for family members to take care of themselves in the best manner possible. Try to take turns at the trauma care center so that you can get some rest. Lack of sleep can make your stress far worse and put you at risk for getting sick. Take a brisk walk or continue hobbies like knitting or crossword puzzles to briefly take your mind off what's happened. That way you'll have better focus. No one impacted by a spinal cord injury ever gets over it. But as the months and years go by, you will cope and adjust. The best way to make a healthy adjustment is to keep an open mind during every step of the process and to never give up hope. Take advantage of all the therapeutic opportunities, talk about your feelings and concerns, and meet with other people and families who have been through this. They can help you.
Science is making great strides. It's becoming increasingly likely that some connectivity will be able to be reestablished within the spinal cord, allowing for the regaining of some function. You can be assured that the medical community will share these advances as they happen. What you can do now is maximize the function you have at this stage. Get yourself in the best condition possible. Be as independent as possible. Get yourself back to school or work and reintegrate it into your family's life.
As participants in a family or a friendship that involves someone with a spinal cord injury, we can only do our human and personal best. I used to say to everybody, I'm only one mommy, doing the very best that I can. We need to encourage, support, and care for the person we love while taking good care of ourselves. I know that's not always easy, but you're going to be surprised what you're made of. You are resilient. I leaned on every ounce of strength that I had, and you can too. I know you can. I fully believe in the power of faith, family, friends, hope, and love. It got our family to the wonderful place that we're at today, and it will help you too.
We hope this video has been helpful and will continue to be as you watch it again and share it with friends and family members. Refer to the print or online companion booklet as a handy tool to help you remember definitions and helpful websites. Thank you for watching. We wish you all the best toward the most fulfilling life possible for your loved one and your family.